Welcome back, everyone, to the final episode of the Uranium 2020 series, for now at least. The conclusion, where I will be talking about my key realizations, things that when I finally realized how important they were to the uranium bull thesis, it really moved my understanding forward. So these are the summary and the big important parts, for me at least. So the first big point that was kind of an aha moment for me when looking at uranium and being like, whoa, hang on a second, let me rethink what I had assumed, was China growth and compounding. And what really clicked for me here is not so much that China is growing, because that's been said for a while, not just that they're doing it, not just that they have their own supply, but the implications of putting all those together. What is China doing? What do they have planned long term? How much do they have? How much do they need? How much do they produce? And if you isolate China in sort of its own market and you look at what they have done and what they say they're going to continue doing, this future demand kind of adds up alarmingly quickly. And you have to look at how serious they are about what they say they're going to do. The next thing, very critical to fully understand this point, is inventory. I know it's a huge bear case for some people, but really getting to the bottom of what's buyable, what's basically zero, but counted as inventory, and what's noise. So people will say, oh, well, there's been oversupply for a while, and so there must be inventory. Where, this is big, where did that inventory go? Have to think about that, have to consider it. And my hint in this one, or my realization, was, well, see the previous slide. Next point, and it's another big one, new reactors. The bonus fuel needed for new reactors, the 2.5 to 3 years for new reactors, plus maybe even some strategic supply that the reactor operator will want to have before it goes into production in case there's some issue. That is significant in terms of the demand picture, because I know it's just a one-time boost, if you will, but when you have a number of reactors coming online, this adds up, and it can be quite a significant one-time event. Next big thing, then it's kind of a two-parter here. Timelines and depletion. How long does it take for a uranium deposit to be discovered, developed, permitted, because that's a while, finance, construction, ramp up? And then, oh yeah, then there's a 2-year fuel cycle. It's a long time. And what happens? I've talked about this before, but look at the depletion rates. Another thing that some people seem to be, maybe, I don't know, maybe they're considering it, but maybe they're skipping it when they're making their certain conservative or bearish assumptions, or maybe not. What year are we? When are we now? Seriously, because we're heading into 2020, but when is the uranium being ordered for? Because utilities aren't waiting for last minute. They're not going to. They very likely never will, because they're smart and they realize that uranium is slow. Now, are we 2020 heading into 2020, or maybe something closer to heading into 2022 for when utilities are thinking about their contracting? And the last thing, contract cycle. Talked about this, variable demand. It is something that is not really the type of thing that you can judge because it's a bunch of other people making a bunch of decisions that you don't know when they're making. But historically, there's been a certain pattern of behavior. You don't have to think it'll happen again, but it might. And I think it's important to realize where we are in the contract cycle, how covered utilities demand is going forward, and can a deficit be maintained for an unlimited amount of time without prices rising? Well, what would happen to demand once inventories are low? Would they maybe want to restock? It's a it's a balance. If they wait longer, then they'll buy more later. If they don't, then it's more stable. So, in addition to how covered utilities are in this contract cycle, is there any future demand that's short? And I've spoke about this. Short, meaning will need to be produced more than what is promised. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you've made it to this point, I applaud you. If you enjoyed, you might also enjoy the other episodes in this series, and they will be all out eventually, and probably some have been released already. As always, nothing I say is investment advice. This is all just what I'm seeing, how I'm thinking about the sector, and what I view as relevant. So with that, I will leave you there and have a great day.